Hello, Adobe Live community. Lucas O'Keefe here for a great session of pro tips where we're going to be chatting about how you can build a social campaign all in Adobe Express. We're live from the Behance chat where I'll be monitoring. So please hop in, join me there with any of your questions. I'll be doing my best job multitasking to get those questions answered for you, as well as while I'll be creating this content. So what we're going to be doing today, as I hop on to Adobe Express, is I'm going to be creating a social media campaign that I can share across all the different channels of Instagram. Instagram being my platform of choice on social media because it has so many different formats. For better or for worse, some people love those images, the swipeable content. Some people love the videos. Some people love stories. We're going to look at how we can create it all. And my favorite feature about Adobe Express is that I can create it all in the same project window. So the brand I'm going to be working with today is actually a fictional but favorite brand of mine that I've named Inspired Interiors. And here you can see I've loaded in my brand kit. So I've got my logo here. If you want to take a look, I've got my color palettes, anything I need for Inspired Interiors. But I'm going to show you just some sample content that I could create for this brand to really just show off and communicate with their audience. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm feeling a story. Let's show off some animations and get going there. So we're going to go ahead and just type in interior design into the templates. And we're going to find one that we like for really just comparing some different types of interior design styles. So my goal here first is to really just think about how my audience can engage with me on social, how I can ask them, what is your favorite type of content? What is your favorite type of interior design style? So let's go ahead and find one. How about this? We're going to add it as a page. And just like, because I do want this to be a story, I'm going to go ahead and resize it into that shape right there. There we go. And I want to have two competing different styles. So let's see what we can do here. I want to have a nice clean style here, just so my audience can share their thoughts and their opinions. And let's go ahead and add, because we want to make this a this or that, let's just swap it in with a different image instead. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to use some fun text to image, but let me show you how I'm going to set up this story first. So it's going to be a nice this or that. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I want my audience to vote in the stories to get that nice engagement in there. They're going to tell me which one they would like to have on their wall or which way they would like to decorate their apartment. So let's go ahead and actually make it branded for Inspired Interiors. Again, I got my brand kit here, so I'm loading that in, deleting any of the template elements that I'm not going to use. And while this probably looks a little messy right now, it's going to get nice and clean and on brand very soon. So let's go ahead and make that nice and visible at the top there. And I want my audience to vote this or that. And we're going to see which one ends up winning out on socials, just so we can keep our audience nice and engaged throughout that. So let's go ahead, switch in that font to my nice loaded preset. So here we have my Inspired Interiors presets. I'm going to go ahead with one that's a little bit more readable, a little bit more audible for my audience to see. Pop that up there. And we're going to actually use the similar element right here to be able to vote on the two styles. So let's go ahead and make this one clean. There we go for style number one. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to split it in half in a second so they can actually vote on two options. Let's go ahead and get that image in there. So I want to have clean on one side, and then I want to have my other image on the other side. Let's go make it nice and even. And remembering this all starts from that initial template that I've been using, but I'm going to have some fun now, and I'm going to use some text to image to generate my next style. So let's go ahead and suggest, let's do clean versus loft style. So if I go ahead, I'm going to generate a square image of my own. I want it to be realistic. So I'm going to switch it over to photo, and let's go ahead and do a loft style apartment and see what we got there. So while that's generating, again, something that I would end up doing for this is I would pop this on my stories every single day, and I would use it to gauge what my audience likes to see. There's our lovely collection of images we just generated with our text to image. I like this one, so I'm going to go ahead and pop that in there. And if I didn't like it, I could always scroll down and generate more. I chose the photorealistic style because that is what we are dealing with here. But let's put those up side by side for our audience to vote. Clean versus our loft. Go ahead, pop in the chat. What's your favorite interior design style? If you had to pick one of these two, if you had to live in one of these, what would your place of choice be? I think I would probably go for more the loft style because I don't know if I could keep a place as clean as that one. Before I do forget, I'm going to pop in my brand logo because we are dealing with inspired interiors. I've preloaded 2 different variations, right? I have the nice logo that's white for backgrounds that are darker, and I also have the black version of the logo. Let's go ahead and pop that right there. And I don't want any animations just yet, but let's go ahead and make both of these pop. So again, if we're now talking about a story just like that, perfectly sized for my Instagram audience, well, I'm seeing some love for the loft style. That's my preferred as well. I want to animate these because, again, stories are something your audience can interact with, but they're also videos, right? And they're going to play for the duration of how long you put it up there. So I don't want it to be super short where it's gone and my audience can't interact with it. So I'm going to go ahead, group these together, and let's actually add some animations. And my favorite animations that I use in Adobe Express are actually the looping ones, which means it's just going to keep playing for the whole duration of that story, keeping it nice and appealing for my audience. I've been experimenting with breathe, pulse based on how much of an intensity you want. Something very cool, because if we look, currently my pulse is going outside of the border of my video. That's okay. I'm just going to reduce the intensity. And just like that, it's now staying within the range. So that's something really fun I've liked to do. I'm almost done with this story, but again, it's interactive. It can be animated in a bunch of ways. So why don't we go ahead and get multiple elements popping in for our audience to see. So I want it to be in their face, grab their attention as soon as they see that. So these are some in or out animations. The one I used on my 2 voting options, that was a looping animation. So that's going to play for the whole intro. What I want for this is just something that's going to be in my audience's face. There it is right there. I like pop. Tumble's a fun one too. That's a nice little one right there. Let's go ahead and make it pop. And right away, my audience is checking their story feed. They're scrolling, and there we go. This or that, clean or loft. What I would do when I would actually upload this to Instagram is I would actually add a poll sticker so my audience can vote on it in an interactive or engaging way. But that's for once I actually get it posted. But this is a social media campaign. That's, if we're keeping score, that is one type of content, one format I've created, that's stories. Let's go ahead and now create a single image. And for the whole thing, what we're going to be looking at, if you are sticking through to the end, which I hope you are, we're also going to be doing an Instagram reel at the very end. So those are going to be our 3 types of content. We've got a story, we've got a single post, and we're going to have an Instagram reel. Let's go ahead and add a new page. This time I'm going to be making an Instagram post. So I want it to be, let's do 1080 by 1080. And we're going to add it in there. And there's our new page. This one is not going to be having any animations. It's going to be a more static graphic, but we've been having fun with templates. So let's go ahead and check templates again, popping in my interior design. One thing I will show that I've actually been enjoying as well is in my brand kit, I can actually, so with my inspired interiors brand kit, and these are some templates that I've made, I'm actually going to look to show how I made them, but I can actually, once they're done, down at the bottom here, I can save those templates to my brand kit. So I can access them really at any point and just keep coming back to them. So I'm not having to do what I'm doing every single time. But as someone who is showing the deep dive into where I would get started, someone who's, trying to find that social vibe that I'm looking for, here's how I would incorporate a template into mine overall. So again, we have tons of options here. We're going to scroll through, see any that we like that really do catch our eye, and something that maybe I can modify to turn into my own type of content. I actually really like, let's see. I like this. Let's see if we can go to Instagram post in particular, because that's kind of what we want, right? We got some multiple page, we got some animated. I'm going to go with this circular looking one. There we go. So I'm going to add it as a page, and I'm going to resize it to the square post that I'm looking for. There we go. Gets a little bit wider. Now for my brand, I don't want as much of this stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and delete anything I'm not going to be using. Something that did really catch my eye was this circle for conveying information in the corner. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that. And let's make it more on brand with my brand colors. So we used our red last time. Let's go ahead and use our green, switch it up there. And just so I can visualize where everything's going to go, I'm going to show you how this becomes my own brand template, something that I can make. So what I want for this type of content is I envision this being every single day, this social media account, Inspired Interiors, is giving value to their audience with daily design tips. So just a single content pillar where every single day they're going to show up and share something valuable that you can tune in and maybe try in your own home. So I'm going to make that the content pillar for this. So let's go ahead and change it to my brand fonts and my brand colors to match that. There we go. And we're going to make it daily design tips. Oh, we don't need this phone number down here. And the fun thing about templates is you can use however much of it as you want, right? You're not confined to stick to the template. You can pick and choose, get inspired. I was really mainly inspired by this circle here, right? And then that was the main thing I used. Whereas I've created other aspects of content where I really just add my own brand colors, but most of what I use is the original template. I'm going to make this dynamic, which is another fun feature I like to use. And let's make that really pop just like that. Daily design tip. I want them to know what they're accessing when they do approach my page or my channel. Let's go ahead. I don't need this brown circle here, but I am going to eventually put my own image there. So I do like the placement. I can see how much I want to change the size. Let's go with something like that. All right. Something I have done is I've scripted a lot of my content already. So when you are getting into a design, a social media campaign and designing it, I do like to do the writing as a separate step. So I've already written the copy. I've already researched what I'm going to be doing for this content. And it really does help speed things up. I find if I'm having to, wire my brain to jump back to get design oriented, how it's going to look, and then all of a sudden jump back to what I'm even talking about, things can get a little confusing. So I already know that this is going to be a focus on, we're going to do the open space illusions. And what that is using open space to make a room look bigger. Let's go ahead and line that up there so our audience knows what we're working with, what we're talking about. And then I want to give the value. So down at the bottom, I'm going to pop a new text box. And this is where I'm going to explain what that illusion is or what the actual design tip I'm sharing is so my audience can try it out for themselves. And again, I have 3 fonts loaded into my brand kit. One that is nice for my on-brand content, like my logo, one that is good for titles, and one that is good for my copy. So we're going to use my copy this time. And again, this is something that I have typed in before. There we go. So my post is coming together. This is something that this brand could share daily as an easy way to show up on the main feed for their audience, giving value, things that are going to get them supporting the brand. So I've said, daily design tip, open space illusions. Small room, create an illusion of openness by using mirrors strategically. Place mirrors across from windows to reflect natural light and make the room feel larger. Share your mirror placement hacks in the comments. So one thing that I think is missing a little bit though, is my picture here doesn't match. So I like the circular picture. I had it there from the template, but I'm going to go ahead and generate something new. Let's pop in our text to image again. And we are looking for, let's see, it's super fun to just play around with your prompts too. So we're going to go with a spacious looking home interior with mirrors on walls, right? So the main thing is I have to give the prompts of what I'm looking for. This is about how you can make an open space look bigger by adding in more mirrors. So I want to make sure that's in my prompt. Probably the fastest prompt I've generated. Look at that. So we got something generated already. Let's wait and see what other ones we do have to take a look at. And I'm going to find one that really does fit. So I was mentioning a small room, right? That's what I was mentioning as this open space illusion, a way to make a small room pop. So I'm going to go with this image because I feel like that does fit. And I'm going to show you something really cool that you can do with text to image in a moment to change your prompt. But first, what I do want is this to be a circle again, because that is what we started with. because that's really what, it's what's going to actually make the image show up, right? So what we do want to do once that image is loaded is we're going to turn it into a circle that we can just, fit with the rest of the images. There's some other fun things. I won't do it, but you can always remove the background, make things disappear, right? So there are some really neat things that do show up. I can add some duotone effects, anything like that. So now that I have my design tip here, we got it popping. I want to show you that there are so many different ways that you can reuse that content. So if I were to go ahead and duplicate this page, right? Sure, I have 2 copies of it. But what if I want to instead, just not have to reinvent the wheel 1,000 times? I want to share a different tip on a different day, right? So now I'm going to go with, again, using the exact same thing, but just changing it up. I'm going to go with a tip on statement lighting, right? So again, I wrote copy on there. We got the copy for how we're sharing a different tip for the day. Whenever I share social media campaigns, the thing I always advocate for is make your content, that's why we call them content pillars, as recreatable as you can, right? If you have to show up as much as possible and you want to share value for your audience, find those different types of content that you can just recreate again and again. So all I did here was I made a duplicate copy of my design tip, and I just changed the topic. I changed the background to match a different color, right? And now I'm just going to generate a new image to go with it. So let's go ahead, a nice looking home interior with a fancy light fixture. So if I spelled everything right. And what I wanted to mention earlier is I can auto-generate a new prompt just using that same image, right? So all I did was I made a duplicate copy and I'm just changing the prompt to have something different, right? So here we have some interesting ones. I think I'm having some good hits right here because I'm liking this one. It does fit what I'm looking for. It is really just a statement piece, and I'm going to crop it so it's a nice big open circle to really fill that space that I was mentioning from the start. So it just reflects that template. I like to learn from templates, right? The template had it as a nice circle here, and I transferred it over to match that same style. So that is how we did our daily design tip. So we're looking at a few pieces of content here. We have stories, right? We got animated stories. We got our single post. I can delete that one. And we have our image that we have. Now I'm going to create a reel, and I'm going to do it super fast, being mindful of time. But that's what I love about how fast this actually is. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do a custom size because I want this to be a reel. So we're going to make the height 1920 pixels. We're going to add a page there. Now the reel, I don't want it, I want it to be different from the story I created here, right? That was just for someone to interact with. A reel, I want it to convey information. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and go into the stock video we have here. I'm going to type in interior design. And what I'm going to be creating here is I imagine this one content pillar that we have for the brand is style trends. Okay, so I'm going to show how I'm going to create that. Normally, I would put all the video in first and then create it and then add in the text. But just so you know what I'm creating, I'm going to go ahead and add the text first, just so we can kind of see that. So I'm going to add a nice duotone here, which is one of my favorite ways to really just make text show up on a video. And this is going to be my style trend. That's going to be this content pillar. If you're in the chat, let me know what your favorite content type to see on social media is. Is it video? Is it reels? Is it stories? Is it static info or photos or infographics? What is it and why would be my question for you. Let's go ahead and make this one pop. All right, so right as soon as my audience shows up, they're seeing that this is a style trend. There we go. I'm gonna add an animation to this in a moment, but just to keep going with my video clips, let's keep going with interior design. Oh, that's on text, that's not on video. Let's see what interior design clips I can add in addition to this, just to kind of also match that home interior vibe. I like this one because it's 20 seconds long, which means I can make sure there's gonna be enough footage. And that's one tip I do have when you are using stock, make sure you have one that's gonna match the length. I like that, it shows some different vibes, different seasonal times. I'm gonna make it consistent with my duotone effect that I was applying. There we go. I will say the trend I'm sharing is earthy tones. So that's why I'm adding this nice brown duotone effect to each one. And as you can see, I have my layers here. I'm switching back and forth between the two of them. I'm using the images that I want, or the videos that I want. It's very quick and easy to edit video in Adobe Express. We are doing earthy tones. There we go. My audience is getting the vibe. Okay, what's Lucas talking about? Style trend incoming. I could probably make that a little bit shorter. So I'm going to drag it. There we go. Earthy tones. I can make that a little bit shorter. And now let's tell them what earthy tones are. So I'm going to go ahead and get some last footage that I can use on the topic of interior design. Let's see what really stands out to me. What looks like a home interior. The great thing with the duo effects is that I'm making all of it. I'm applying that brown, so I'm making all of it really stand out as an earthy tone, which is great. And I love how easy it is to apply these filters to videos. This one I'm gonna make a little bit longer because I'm gonna tell my audience what the earthy tone effect is. Let's go ahead and do that. And what we really want to do is be able to just add that text for them. So what I'm saying about earthy tones is this trend here, I'll show you. Let me actually make it the right color font we're looking for before I read it. All right, here we go. So we're looking at this trend is all about bringing the outdoors in with natural materials like wood, stone, and rattan. And here we go through. Got our style trend, earthy tones, and just like that, right? And I could add a leaf, I can add an icon there. And I love how quick that is. I can add animations, or those animations I mentioned. So style trend pops in, right? And I like how the animations are independent of what's happening in the video, right? So the video is doing its own thing. It's playing, and there's my animation popping in with the style trend, right? Earthy tones can also be conveyed, and then I can have my description or what the trend is all about. Let's center that a little bit more. What I could even do, which is great, is I can even change a few of these timings. So if I want to not have the description on for too long, right here, I'm dragging it and I'm shortening it, right? So if we look, there it goes, it cuts out. And what I can do now is I can add, this is the outro to mine. So I can go ahead and add my logo, just so they remember that it is an Inspired Interiors brand. So I'm gonna go ahead and shrink that so they don't overlap. And just like that, it jumps to where I do want that to show up. And that's what I love about this new drag and drop editor. Just like that, style trend, earthy tones. We read what earthy tones is, it goes away, and Inspired Interiors pops up right there. Last but not least, before I do show this nice brand kit we've been looking at, let's add some music to it because we have time for some music. Tons of music built in. I'm going to add the track first because I do not want to sound blast you with the audio. Let's go ahead and add this here so I can, the volume is great just for the sake of us going live. I don't want it to be too loud. Let's go ahead and play that all together. And just like that, that is what I love about just how you can put everything together. And my favorite part about really now viewing the campaign that I made is, if you remember, I'm swiping through these different files, right? I'm going through the different styles that I've created, and I'm able to see them all in the same project, right? It doesn't have to change between, me using the 1080 by 1920 story size right over to a 1080 by 1080 Instagram main feed post. I'm super easily able to just visualize everything that I've put here all together. And that makes it also super easy for me to, again, make new content. So again, I know we're going to be mindful of time. We are going to be wrapping it up here. But if I did want to just create a new story to go with that, I'm duplicating it, right? And there's a new one. We're going to go ahead, make it green. So it's a different aspect of our brand. We're going to change the colors, change up the two styles for our audience to vote on. And that's really the cool thing about how you can build a brand campaign right here in Adobe Express. I've been loving it for just visualizing it and also pitching it to clients, showing, you know what, here is what all the different types of content we are going to make for you would look like. Here are some different opportunities or some different options for different content pillars you may want to test out and try out. And I've been working with this one for a while, this folder, but if I zoom out, you can see just tons of all the content, all the different types that I've been creating, all zoomed out right here, ready to go with some new projects. I always put at the beginning so I can add something quick and on the fly right there. Otherwise, that is it for this Adobe Live session. Thank you for joining me on building a social campaign in Adobe Express. I've been Lucas O'Keefe, and I love to see what you create. So please connect with me at any time just to share. If you're working on some fun brand templates, I always love to see what everyone's coming up with. So thank you very much and have a great day. Keep creating.